The Forgotten Legend returns. The Quarren Observatory on Tellus IG was the most advanced in the Galactic Coalition. Its quantum sensors could detect the movement of a shuttle from 50 light-years away, analyze its composition, and determine its origin within seconds. But today, those sensors detected something the algorithms couldn't identify. Chief Observer Krell stared at the readings with his 4 eyes blinking in asynchronous confusion. The anomaly had appeared overnight, a massive energy signature far beyond the outer rim, in a sector that had been abandoned for centuries. "Run the analysis again," he ordered, his scaled skin rippling with unease. His assistant, Vex, a slender Altharian with bioluminescent patterns flowing across her translucent skin, shook her head. "I've run it 17 times, Chief. The signature is consistent. It's not natural, and it's not from any known species." Krell's inner eyelids closed in concentration. "Send the data to Central Command. They'll want to know about this immediately." But Central Command didn't share his concern. The response came 12 hours later, dismissive and curt. "Anomaly classified as sensor malfunction. Recalibrate equipment and resume standard monitoring protocols." Krell knew better. The sensors weren't malfunctioning. Something was out there, something enormous, and it was moving with purpose. 3 days later, the first reports came in from the mining colony on Drixian VI, a desolate rock at the edge of Coalition space. A massive ship had appeared in orbit, its design unlike anything in the galactic database. The colony's communications cut out mid-transmission, leaving only static and fear in its wake. The Coalition still refused to acknowledge what was happening. "Pirate activity," they declared. Nothing more. But Krell knew the truth. The legends were real. Humans had returned. On Centaurus Prime, the heart of the Galactic Coalition, Supreme Commander Thax addressed the Council of Species. His imposing figure, 3 meters of armored exoskeleton and military decorations, commanded respect from the assembled representatives. "These sightings are nothing more than exaggerated reports from isolated outposts," he declared, mandibles clicking with each syllable. "There is no evidence to support the return of humans." The word itself caused a ripple of discomfort through the chamber. Humans, the mythical species that older civilizations whispered about, whose supposed exploits were dismissed as impossible tales meant to frighten juveniles. Legends claimed they had once controlled vast sectors of the galaxy before mysteriously vanishing millennia ago. Ambassador Jen of the Valthusian Collective rose from her hovering chair. "My people have ancient records documenting human existence. They were not myths, Commander. And if they have returned—" "Your ancient records are corrupted data fragments," Thax interrupted. "No single species could possibly have achieved what your stories claim. Faster than light travel without gates. Energy weapons that could destroy planets. Impossible. Even if humans did once exist, they are long extinct." The council chambers erupted in a cacophony of arguments until a deafening alarm silenced everyone. The massive holographic display at the center of the chamber activated automatically, showing a real-time feed from the Coalition defense grid. Ships, hundreds of them, thousands, appearing simultaneously across dozens of systems, materializing as if from nowhere. Their design was unlike anything in the Coalition database, angular yet organic, with a strange iridescent black material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Impossible," Thax whispered, his confidence evaporating. "The ships didn't attack. They simply positioned themselves near major worlds, stations, and jump gates, silent, watchful, overwhelming in their presence." Ambassador Jen's voice cut through the stunned silence. "It seems the myths have returned, Commander." On the frontier world of Helios II, Governor Drac watched the sky darken as massive ships moved into orbit above the colony. Unlike the Coalition leadership, the frontier worlds had kept the old stories alive. Tales of humans were passed down through generations, stories of their ingenuity, their adaptability, and their terrifying capacity for both creation and destruction. "They say the humans were betrayed," his aide whispered beside him. that the ancient coalition species feared their rapid advancement and conspired to eliminate them. Drac nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the ships above. And yet here they are. They survived somehow. Communication systems across the planet suddenly activated simultaneously. Every screen, every audio channel, every data terminal displayed the same message. A simple graphic of two hands clasped together, one clearly alien with 6 digits, the other unmistakably human. Then a voice followed, speaking in perfect universal standard. "We are the United Earth Fleet. We come in peace to those who deserve it." The implications were clear. Not everyone deserved peace. The coalition military response was immediate and predictable. Defensive fleets mobilized at strategic locations, weapon platforms powered up, and diplomatic channels attempted to establish communication with the unknown vessels. Admiral Voles of the 7th Fleet approached the largest human ship in the Arcturus system with a battle group of 30 coalition warships. "This is Admiral Voles of the Galactic Coalition. You have entered sovereign space without authorization. Identify yourselves and state your intentions immediately." The response was unexpected. "Admiral Voles," a calm human voice replied, "we recognize your authority within the coalition framework. However, we are not here to engage with intermediaries. We will speak only with the Council of Elders directly." The Council of Elders, a secretive group whose existence was officially denied by coalition leadership, but known to every high-ranking military officer. How could these outsiders know about them? "I don't know what you're talking about," Voz responded, following protocol. "All diplomatic engagements must follow established channels." "Admiral," the human voice continued, now tinged with something that made Voz's spine tingle. Was it amusement? "We understand you're following orders, but please convey our message. The children of Earth remember the purge. We remember the betrayal. And we have returned to claim justice." Before Voz could respond, the human ships vanished, not retreating through conventional space, but simply disappearing in a brief flash of blue light. On Centaurus Prime, the Council of Species was in continuous emergency session. Fear had replaced skepticism, and panic threatened to overturn millennia of stable governance. "How did they find us after all this time?" demanded the Thrilaxian representative, his gelatinous form pulsating with stress chromatophores. "More importantly, how did they survive?" added Ambassador Jen. "The historical records indicate that Operation Silent Night was thorough. Every human world, outpost, and vessel was supposed to have been eliminated." The chamber fell silent at her words. Operation Silent Night had been classified at the highest level, its details known only to the oldest species on the Council. That she would speak of it openly was unprecedented. Supreme Commander Thax's voice lowered to a dangerous growl. "You overstep, Ambassador. Those records are sealed for a reason." "The reason is shame," came a new voice from the entrance to the chamber. Every head turned. Standing in the doorway was a figure that most had only seen in historical archives or fictional entertainments. A human. Of average height compared to many council species, the human nevertheless commanded attention through presence alone. Dressed in a simple gray uniform with no visible weapons, the human walked calmly to the center of the chamber. "My name is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Fleet," she announced, her voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space. "I am here to inform you that the quarantine of humanity has officially ended." Quarantine, not extinction, not genocide. The choice of words was deliberate and sent a shockwave through the assembled representatives. "How did you get in here?" Thax demanded, signaling discreetly for security. "This chamber is protected by security systems based on technology we provided to your ancestors before the betrayal," Chen interrupted. "Did you really think we wouldn't remember how to bypass them?" Security forces entered the chamber but hesitated, clearly uncertain about how to proceed against the single unarmed intruder who had impossibly breached their most secure facility. Chen continued as if unaware of the commotion. 3,000 years ago, humanity was deemed too dangerous to exist alongside other sentient species. our rapid technological advancement, our adaptability, our ambition. These were labeled as threats rather than assets. The Coalition's founding species, many of whom are represented in this room, voted in secret to eliminate us. She walked slowly around the central platform, making eye contact with various representatives. Many looked away. What those ancient leaders failed to understand was humanity's greatest trait, our tenacity. Yes, you destroyed our worlds. Yes, you killed billions of our people. But some of us escaped. We hid in the dark places between stars, in dimensional pockets your sensors couldn't penetrate, in the shadows of your blind arrogance. Chen stopped before the Coalition's historical archive terminal and placed her hand on it. The system, which required specific biological markers for access, immediately activated, displaying ancient footage that none present had ever seen. The actual visual record of Coalition warships bombarding Earth and its colonies, of human ships being destroyed as they fled, of an entire species being systematically erased from the galaxy. We have spent 3 millennia rebuilding, remembering, and advancing far beyond what your ancestors feared we might become, Chen said quietly. We could have returned at any time in the last 1,000 years, but we waited, watched, and learned what the Coalition had become in our absence. The chamber remained silent as the footage continued to play, a visual confession of an atrocity that had been hidden from most modern species. And now you have returned for revenge, Fax finally said, his voice hollow. Chen turned to him, her expression unreadable. If we wanted revenge, Commander, there would be no one left in this room to hear my words. No, we haven't come to destroy. We've come to reclaim our place in the galaxy. She smiled, but the expression held no warmth. And to ensure that what happened to us never happens to another species. As she spoke those words, the room's lighting changed. The air seemed to shimmer around them, and many representatives experienced a momentary feeling of displacement. What was that? Demanded Fax. What have you done? I've simply revealed what was already here, Chen replied. My colleagues have been present throughout this meeting, observing your reactions, measuring your responses. They are now visible to you. Suddenly, the representatives realized they were not alone with this single human. Throughout the chamber stood dozens of other humans, previously invisible through some advanced technology. They had been there all along, silent witnesses. The Coalition as you know it ends today, Chen announced. A new covenant will take its place, one built on true equality, transparency, and justice. Species who embrace these principles will flourish. Those who resist. She didn't need to finish the threat. As panic began to spread through the chamber, the primary communication systems activated. On every screen across the galaxy, the same message appeared. The truth about humanity's attempted extinction, the Coalition's founding lie, and the promise of a new beginning. The legend had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. From legends to conquerors, the revelation spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had never questioned the Coalition's authority now demanded answers. Worlds that had suffered under its uneven governance saw an opportunity for change, and those who had benefited from the old system prepared for war. Admiral Helena Chen stood before the emergency assembly of the full Galactic Council, not just the privileged inner circle, but representatives from all 317 recognized species. Many had traveled for days to attend, summoned by the humans' galaxy-wide broadcast. The chamber, designed for pomp and exclusivity, was now crowded beyond capacity, with diplomatic protocols abandoned as species that had never been allowed on Centaurus Prime demanded entry. For 3,000 years, your civilizations have been built upon a foundation of genocide, Chen continued, her voice amplified throughout the massive chamber. The attempted extinction of humanity was just the beginning. How many other species were deemed potentially dangerous and eliminated before they could reach the stars? How many voices were silenced because they asked questions the Council didn't want answered? The Draconian representative, a massive reptilian with ceremonial scars covering his scaled hide, rose from his seat. What evidence do you have of these other alleged genocides? We have only your word. Chen smiled. We have more than words, counselor. We have the coalition's own records. With a gesture, she activated the central display again. This time, it showed correspondence between ancient council members, military orders, and casualty reports, all documenting the systematic elimination of species deemed evolutionary competitors or incompatible with galactic stability. These records were supposedly destroyed, gasped an elderly Altharian diplomat. How did you obtain them? We were there, came a new voice. Another human stepped forward, older than Chen, with dark skin and penetrating eyes. I am Dr. Marcus Washington, one of the last humans born on Earth before its destruction. Through a technology you cannot comprehend, some of us have survived these 3 millennia, watching and recording your atrocities. A murmur ran through the assembly. If true, this meant humans had developed life extension far beyond anything the Coalition possessed. Impossible, declared Supreme Commander Fax. No organic being could live so long. Washington regarded him with something like pity. Commander, the limitations you accept as universal laws are merely the boundaries of your imagination. Humanity transcended those limitations out of necessity. When faced with extinction, one either evolves or perishes. Outside the council chambers, coalition military forces were mobilizing. Despite the diplomatic engagement underway, hardliners within the upper echelons had decided that humanity represented too great a threat to be allowed to disrupt the established order. Admiral Koros, a decorated veteran of the border wars, commanded the response fleet. 500 warships gathered from across coalition space, armed with the most advanced weapons in the known galaxy. The humans have shown the ability to bypass our security systems and shields, he addressed his command staff. But they cannot stand against our combined firepower. We will target their largest vessels first, then systematically eliminate their presence from our space. His tactical officer, a young Vanaxian with a promising career ahead of her, looked troubled. Sir, with respect, the humans haven't shown aggression. Their ships have maintained defensive postures only. Their mere presence is aggression, Koros replied sharply. And their claims against the Council are sedition. The order has been given. Prepare to engage. The coalition fleet moved into position, surrounding the human vessels in orbit around Centaurus Prime. Traditional battle doctrine called for overwhelming force applied simultaneously, a strategy that had proven effective against every known adversary for millennia. All ships in position, Admiral, reported the tactical officer. Weapons locked on targets. Koros activated the fleet-wide communication channel. Attention unidentified vessels. You are in violation of Coalition space. You have 5 minutes to power down your systems and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. The response came not through communication channels, but as a direct transmission into the command deck systems, bypassing all security protocols. A human face appeared on every screen, not Chen or Washington, but a younger man with an expression of almost paternal disappointment. Admiral Koros, the human said, my name is Commander Eli Torres of the Earth Defense Force. I understand you believe you're protecting your civilization. I respect that, but you're operating under 3 critical misconceptions that I feel obligated to correct. Koros bristled at the condescension. State your terms for surrender, human. Torres continued as if uninterrupted. First misconception, that we are invaders. We were here before your species achieved sentience. We helped build the foundations of what became your coalition before we were betrayed. Second misconception, that your weapons pose a threat to us. They don't. Your most advanced technology is based on principles we mastered and transcended 1,000 years ago. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in agitation. Final warning. Power down or. Third misconception. Torres cut in, his tone hardening slightly, that we need ships to travel through space. As he spoke those words, Koros became aware of something impossible. Torres was no longer just on the screen. He was standing on the command deck, having appeared from nowhere. And he wasn't alone. On every ship in the Coalition fleet, humans had simultaneously appeared. How? Koros began, reaching for his sidearm. Torres raised a hand. Please don't. I'm not here to harm anyone. I'm here to prevent a tragedy. Outside the viewport, the human fleet began to change. The massive ships seemed to shimmer and then, impossibly, they simply disappeared. What trickery is this? Demanded Koros. Where are your ships? That's the thing, Admiral, Torres said with a small smile. Those weren't ships. Not really. They were projections, solid-like constructs designed to be detected by your sensors, to be impressive and intimidating, a necessary theatrical element to gain your attention. Then how did you get here? Where is your actual fleet? Torres gestured around them. We don't need ships the way you understand them. Haven't for centuries. The human vessels that escaped the purge found refuge in the dark spaces between dimensions. There, we evolved, adapted, transcended the limitations of conventional space travel. On the main view screen, new images appeared. Impossible structures floating in what looked like the space between stars, geometric patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly, and energy signatures that defied classification. While your ancestors hunted down the last conventional human outposts, we were already becoming something else, Torres explained. We maintained human form because it's comfortable, familiar. But we're no longer bound by its limitations. As if to demonstrate, Torres's hand passed directly through the Admiral's command console, not damaging it, but phasing through it like light through crystal. We could have revealed ourselves centuries ago, but we needed to understand what the galaxy had become in our absence, whether redemption was possible for the civilization built on our attempted extinction. Back in the council chambers, Admiral Chen's address had taken an unexpected turn. Rather than demands for reparations or threats of retribution, she was proposing a complete restructuring of galactic governance. The Coalition was founded on fear and maintained through inequality, she said. Some species are granted full rights while others are relegated to protectorate status for centuries. Some worlds are stripped of resources while others live in luxury. This system doesn't need reform, it needs replacement. The chamber had divided into clear factions: older species that had benefited from the status quo, younger species that saw opportunity and change, and those caught in between, uncertain where to place their loyalty. Ambassador Jen, who had shown sympathy to the human cause earlier, found her voice. What you propose would cause chaos across thousands of worlds. Economies would collapse. Wars would erupt between species with ancient grudges. Chen nodded. Change is never easy, Ambassador. But consider the alternative, continuing a system based on lies, where advancement is stifled and potential is wasted because it might threaten those in power. Dr. Washington stepped forward again. We anticipated this concern. That's why we spent centuries developing transition protocols for each world, each economy, each species. No one will be abandoned to chaos. He activated a personal device, and the chamber's displays filled with detailed plans, economic models, governance structures, resource allocation systems. The level of detail was staggering, demonstrating centuries of careful study and planning. You've been planning this for how long? Asked the draconian representative, his earlier hostility replaced by wary respect. Since the day Earth burned, Washington replied simply. Everything we've done has led to this moment. Throughout the galaxy, similar scenes were unfolding. On every major world, station, and outpost, humans had appeared, not as invaders, but as witnesses and messengers. They shared the truth of history and offered a choice: continue under a system built on genocide and inequality, or join a new coalition founded on transparency and mutual advancement. Many worlds didn't wait for their governments to decide. Popular uprisings erupted across systems where oppression had been the norm. Species that had been denied representation found their voices. Ancient rivalries were set aside in the face of a truth too significant to ignore. On the frontier world of Helios II, Governor Drac watched with amazement as humans helped establish new communication networks, bypassing the coalition's controlled channels. For the first time, his people could speak directly with other frontier worlds without censorship or surveillance. "Why help us?" he asked the human representative assigned to his world. "After what was done to your people, why not just destroy everything and start over?" The human, who had introduced herself simply as Sophia, considered the question carefully before answering. "Because that's what they would have done. And we spent 3,000 years ensuring we wouldn't become like them." In orbit around Centaurus Prime, Admiral Koros's fleet remained in disarray. The humans had disabled their weapons systems without firing a shot. Not destroying them, but rendering them temporarily inoperable through means the coalition's best engineers couldn't comprehend. Commander Torres still stood on the flagship's bridge, patiently answering questions from increasingly curious rather than hostile officers. "If you can simply appear anywhere," a young tactical officer asked, "why reveal yourselves at all? Why not just continue to observe from hiding?" Torres' expression grew solemn. "Because the galaxy is about to face a threat greater than internal politics. Something is coming from beyond the rim, something ancient and patient and hungry. We've detected its awakening, and we know the divided coalition would fall before it. Unity isn't just desirable, it's necessary for survival." The admiral, who had been silently processing everything, finally spoke. "You could have led with that information, Commander." Torres smiled slightly. "Would you have believed us? Or would you have seen it as a transparent attempt to manipulate you through fear?" Koros had no answer. As the galactic day cycled to its end, the council chamber had transformed from a place of panic to one of cautious negotiation. The humans' evidence was irrefutable, their technology beyond anything the coalition could counter, and their proposals, while radical, showed more foresight and compassion than many had expected from a species with every reason to seek vengeance. "We will need time," the council speaker finally said. "What you propose cannot be implemented overnight." "Of course," Chen agreed. "We've waited 3,000 years. We can allow a reasonable transition period." The representatives from younger species were less patient. The Novalian spokesperson, representing a species that had been kept at protectorate status for 7 centuries, despite meeting all criteria for full membership, stood defiantly. "My people will not wait another cycle under coalition oppression," she declared. "We accept the humans' proposal immediately and withdraw from coalition authority effective now." Similar declarations followed from dozens of representatives, then hundreds. The coalition was fracturing before their eyes. Chen raised her hands for silence. "This doesn't need to be divisive. Those who wish to join the new covenant can do so immediately. Those who need time to consider may take it. But understand this. The old ways of domination through military force are over. Humanity will not permit the continuation of a system built on genocide and oppression." The implied threat hung in the air, gentle but unmistakable. Humanity had returned not just as survivors, but as protectors of a new order they intended to establish, with or without the blessing of the old powers. As news spread across the galaxy, reactions varied wildly. Some worlds celebrated in the streets, others barricaded their spaceports. Trade routes were disrupted, then restored under new protocols. Information previously restricted now flowed freely across systems, bringing centuries of lies into the light. On Centaurus Prime, as the council session finally adjourned, Dr. Washington stood at a viewport overlooking the capital city. Admiral Chen joined him, her official duties complete for now. "They're adapting faster than we predicted," she observed. The model suggested at least 3 standard months of chaos. Washington nodded. "Sentient beings are remarkably resilient when given the truth and a clear path forward. Even those who benefited from the old system can see the necessity of change." "And the outer darkness?" Chen asked, her voice lower. "The reports from the Rim outposts are concerning." "That's tomorrow's battle," Washington replied. "Today, we've won something just as important. We've reclaimed our place in the galaxy, not through destruction but creation. Not through conquest but liberation." Chen smiled. 3,000 years in exile, and humanity's return will be remembered not as an invasion but a renaissance. That was always the plan, Washington reminded her. Even when Earth burned, even when we hid between the stars, we knew this day would come. Below them, the city lights began to change color, shifting from the coalition's traditional blue to a spectrum of hues representing all member species, a small gesture by the planetary government, but symbolic of the transformation underway. The legends had returned, not as conquerors, but as catalysts. And the galaxy, long stagnant under the weight of its founding lies, began to awaken to new possibilities. A civilization reborn through the return of those it had once tried to erase. Far beyond the galactic rim, something ancient stirred in the darkness between stars, sensing the shift in the order of things. It had been patient for millennia, watching civilizations rise and fall, waiting for the perfect moment to feed on their chaos and division. But now, unexpectedly, unity was blooming where division had been carefully cultivated. The children of Earth had returned, bringing with them not just advanced technology, but something far more dangerous to the ancient hunger: hope. For the first time in countless ages, the darkness hesitated. Humanity was no longer just a legend to frighten children. They were a beacon calling the galaxy to rise above its past and face the future together. And legends, as the old powers had just learned, should never be underestimated.